Welcome to UO Today. I'm Barbara Altman, Director of the Oregon Humanities Center. Our guest today is Steve Mital, Director of the UO's Office of Sustainability. Mital established the Office of Sustainability in 2007. In 2008, the university hosted the first ever Oregon University System Sustainability Conference. In 2010, Mital was instrumental in creating the UO's Climate Action Plan, which aims to reduce the university's carbon footprint. Mital completed master's degrees from the University of Oregon in both environmental studies and in planning, public policy, and management. To celebrate Earth Week 2011, the Office of Sustainability has launched the UO Ecochallenge. It features a website where faculty, staff, and students can sign up to commit to simple actions that will reduce impacts on the environment. Steve, welcome to UO Today.
Thank you for having me.
We're really glad to have you on, and I love the fact that the Humanities Center is helping support this wonderful, innovative idea you've got with the Eco-Challenge, so we're going to talk about that in a minute, if you don't mind.
Right, great.
But I wanted to ask you first a broader question about your office. You've recently been appointed the director there after being interim, acting, founding director, all those things. What are some of the broader initiatives that your office works on?
Well, I'm responsible for a wide range of monitoring and reporting work on behalf of the university. So I track what things look like on the ground in terms of our environmental impacts, so our emissions, our use of energy and water, pesticides, a wide range of materials and resources that we use on a daily basis just to keep the university going. And then I also try and keep track of what we're doing in terms of green curriculum or green research or green outreach and engagement to the wider community, and provide a clearinghouse for a wide range of people who want to know what we're doing, how to connect to the right person to help them move their own individual project down the road. So that's a big part of my job.
But you also, as well as monitoring and reporting and maintaining oversight over all the initiatives, you also initiate your own improvements, right?
Sure, and I could give you a laundry list if that's what you.
Well,
I won't.
Yes,
so I won't
please.
give you the whole thing. Right now, one of the things we're looking at is to develop a green office certification program, and the way that functions is we are developing a set of criteria by offices can download, office managers that is, can download that off of our website. Not just yet, but it'll be launched soon. And it's a checklist, and they can go through it and see if they are complying with these best practices that we're putting out there. So in terms of there's things that address paper management and computer use and other types of materials and energy uses in your office, and you fill out that scorecard and turn it in, and then you get the equivalent of a bronze, silver, gold, I don't know if it's going to be a star or whatever it's going to be, but some kind of a certification that gives not only you and your students and faculty, but peers and other offices a sense of what your performance is on campus. And so we will launch that hopefully at the beginning of spring term. So that's one project that we're really excited about. We're about to release our 2010 greenhouse gas inventory. So that's something that we do every year. And this year will accompany that, or that will be accompanied by a university-wide presentation. So anybody who wants to get down into the details of how much greenhouse gases are how much their faculty are responsible for greenhouse gases in terms of their air travel, or the football team. That's always an interesting one for folks, or how much various buildings use, or some of our off-campus sites. So all that information will be available, and we'll talk a little bit about ideas and strategies to reduce that. I'm also working with the Campus Planning and Real Estate Office on a new model for development going forward, so that our buildings that we construct and renovate on this campus will be greener and will meet essentially a world-class standard.
That's a lot of stuff going on.
It's a lot of stuff, yeah.
Do you generally meet with enthusiasm and people looking for you to help them achieve their goals, or have you also encountered any pockets of resistance?
Oh, sure. Well, there's both. I try and always design policies or programs that have positive incentives in them, so that they really target those that want to move forward and get out there on the cutting edge of things. And with the idea that we'll build a groundswell of folks who want to take the lead, I'll help them move, and then others who are a little more hesitant for whatever their reasons are, will follow in their footsteps. So I'm not conflict averse, but at the same time, I'm not looking for it to go head to head either. It's not very helpful. But depending on where you go all throughout the university, you can find students, faculty, staff, and administrators who are very comfortable with the changes that are ahead of us, and you can also find those that are very resistant to it.
The Eco-Challenge is a great idea. I love the fact that you are encouraging people to make incremental change. But me saying that doesn't help much unless people know what it's actually about. Can you describe how the Eco-Challenge is going to work?
Sure. Well, I should first give credit to those who deserve it in terms of coming up with the idea. I sit on the board of the Northwest Earth Institute, which is based up in Portland. And a year and a half ago, they launched the first Eco-Challenge, their Eco-Challenge, which was geared as a fundraiser for their organization and working with people in the Portland area. And I immediately saw it not so much as a fundraiser, but something that could be adapted to the university community to help people build on their commitments, make small and incremental behavior change, and create a campus of champions of environmental and social issues. So we stripped out all of the components where you had to go out and raise money, and ours is really just much simpler in that it's an opportunity to make a public commitment to make some small incremental change in your life, whether it be biking to work for Earth Week, or eating organic or local food, or whatever it is. There's a wide range of things you could choose from. We provide a wide range of suggestions, but of course you can adapt any of those to your own individual lifestyles. And we're encouraging hopefully to get up to 1,000 people who will commit to making some small change in their life for Earth Week.
How are you going to advertise this and get people engaged?
Well, I'll be working with the O Heroes, so I'm hoping to get some of the sports stars on campus to make a public commitment. The same thing with some of our more visible faculty and administrative leaders. So if I can get them to make commitments now and then be able to use those to leverage and promote to the rest of the campus. I have good contacts in housing with students. I have good contacts throughout the environmental studies program, faculty and students alike. So it's a wide range of really grassroots efforts. So I'll be essentially starting off by knocking on the doors of a lot of faculty and staff who have personal relationships with. Probably the same, the way that my kids might go door to door raising money for their school projects. I'll be kind of starting the same way, just going door to door, knocking on people's doors, getting people excited about it. And then once I have maybe 50 or 100 folks committed, I'll make a more public launch so that people can see that others have already signed on and it's not that hard to do.
Well, let me know when you're ready.
Yeah.
I'd be delighted to be one of your pilot people,
Okay.
and it will help give me incentive to stick to whatever I commit to. The two things that you mentioned, for example, bicycling to work for Earth Week, or maybe eating more local or organic produce. Those are two that I would have guessed. Is there anything that maybe most of us wouldn't think of that's among the options that you're going to suggest?
Well, I have to think about that. Well, we have one that's is more geared to people who want to make some kind of improvement more on the social side of things and not so much necessarily on the environmental side. So we're suggesting that you volunteer for some local nonprofit or public agency that might work with, let's say, Food for Lane County is a good example, and of course there's dozens of others. So that's one that I think people often don't necessarily associate with Earth Day and Earth Week. The others, to be honest, I think if most people sat still for a little while, you could come up with a list that's fairly similar to mine. So it's not that my list is all that surprising. It's more about, stopping, taking a deep breath and say, you know what, I've been meaning to do this for a long time. It's a simple thing. Here it is on that list. I've thought of it myself, and I'm going to do it. It's more about that than it is about surprising you with, with all the easy things you could do.
That makes a lot of sense. Have you thought about your own commitment? Are you going to undertake to improve your own sustainability practices during that week?
I haven't decided what I'm going to do precisely. Of course, I'll do something. I haven't decided exactly what it is. I can tell you that when I did the Eco-Challenge that was launched by the Northwest Earth Institute a year and a half ago, I got my entire family to stop flushing the toilet for 2 weeks. So we set up a gray water system in our house. Basically, every time we washed the dishes or took a bath or did anything that used water in the house, we had a system to basically pump that water out of the bathtub or whatever it was and into storage bins, and then we flushed our toilets manually by just dipping buckets of water in our storage bins and flushing toilets. And my 5-year-old loved it, and he led the charge for the house, and we kept track of all the gallons that we saved, all the flushes that we didn't make, and it was hundreds and hundreds of gallons. And I can tell you, as a result of that, we went and bought these low flush toilets afterwards as sort of a legacy associated with that project. So it's surprising that even me, somebody who's been involved with this kind of stuff for years and years and years, there are things that you can do that still cause you to go beyond whatever your norms are, and still challenge you and actually get you excited and invigorated in ways you weren't anticipating. So I really want to encourage people to take part. It was really fun for my family. I can say that honestly. It was a lot of fun, and we learned a lot.
You remind me that when I was a child, my mother used to carry the water from the laundry out to the garden.
Yeah.
She did gray water watering for in a dry climate where I grew up. That's, you know what, now I'm inspired. Thank you. What about the impact? So it could have an immediate impact, and in your case, when you undertook the, let's not use extra clean water to flush the toilet initiative at your house, it actually led you to buy a new fixture, right? What do you think the long-term impact of this kind of a week-long challenge would be?
Well, for one, we thought about trying to quantify the impact, the cumulative impact of this Eco-Challenge at the U of O or on the broader Eugene community. And it's really difficult, essentially impossible to do it in any way other than getting anecdotes. We provide a blog on the website so that people can blog about their individual experiences, and they can write, this is the impact that I had, but there isn't any way, scientifically to add it all up and gauge what we accomplished. But so there'll be a lot of anecdotal evidence, and there will be a lot of quiet impact. We won't know exactly what it is. We just have to trust that it happens. And I know that it does from direct experience. You go, you make some change in your life, and and it has an impact beyond that week. That we're not able to roll that up into some kind of a white paper or a report, which is what we're used to doing in an academic environment. I guess I'm okay with that. And the other thing is, I'm hoping that it helps galvanize the campus community in support of broader environmental and social initiatives that we might offer. So if 2 years down the road there's some potential policy on campus that we're debating that has some broad environmental impacts, there may be, instead of dozens of people who show up to the meeting, potentially scores or hundreds because of their because of the community that we helped create through the Eco-Challenge.
The point that you made about difficulty in measuring, the sort of metrics you can come up with to measure impact, is a really good one. I expect you do actually spend a lot of time, though, producing white papers and producing statistics and running numbers to show that you have actually brought the institution from point X to point Y.
We try. It's difficult stuff to gauge. It's really difficult to separate out all the other variables to be able to determine precisely what the Office of Sustainability's impact is. So there tends to be a lot of anecdotal information, and the reality is that the university community is a big and complex place, and there isn't anything really that I can do or any one of us can do unilaterally. It requires a team effort. So I have to go get the buy-in and the support from a wide range of folks in order to carry out some new policy, whatever it may be. So it's a team effort. I'm just one person on that team.
Steve, one of your first great big initiatives, your projects, was the first conference in 2008 of the university system, the Oregon University System, the Sustainability Conference. You held it here on this campus in 2008. The next one is happening at Oregon State in the month of February here. Mm-hmm. Can you track by whatever means, by whatever metrics you've got, whether we've made any accomplishments, whether we've made any progress since 2008?
Oh yeah, well, there's a variety of things that have actually been achieved as a result, I think, of that conference. Or certainly you can trace them back to that conference. The State Board of Higher Education created, in the months after that conference, a subcommittee to investigate sustainability and how to support sustainability broadly across all 7 institutions. So that was a 2-year investigation headed up and chaired by David Yaden, who's one of the members of the State Board of Higher Ed. There were delegates from all 7 institutions and folks from outside of the organization as well, and that resulted in a new OUS policy that requires the presidents of the institutions to do a range of things, including reporting using this instrument called the STARS report, their sustainability performance on an annual basis. And there's a range of other activities that they have to complete and report on annually now, and so that is essentially results from the work of the first sustainability conference. The other thing is that we've strengthened networks across the 7 institutions. So, for example, when I have difficulty measuring a particular activity, I call up my counterparts, usually at PSU and OSU, but sometimes at OIT as well, and ask how are they handling this. And so we have this network and that we didn't have before, and that's allowed all of us to move forward more quickly than we have in the past. And the other thing is that we're looking as a system how to switch to more renewable fuel sources. So we have a proposal out there that OUS is championing on behalf of the 7 institutions to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to create essentially wind farms, solar farms, geothermal plants, et cetera, such that maybe as much as 50% of all energy that is required for the OUS system could be derived sometime down the road by renewable resources. And so that too really comes out of this conference.
So each of the institutions can come up with its own initiatives, perhaps based on their strengths and their fields of expertise, it sounds like.
Oh yeah. So we there's the idea behind that renewable resource project is that the OUS owns lands spread out across the state, and each institution does not necessarily own property that is well situated for renewables, but as a system, there's fantastic opportunities. So the idea would be to site the renewables where it makes the most sense, but wheel the power to the places that need it.
Does every one of the schools in the system have an Office of Sustainability and a director in charge of this?
No, PSU does, OSU, of course the U of O. OIT has a part-time person, and they've struggled to maintain the financial support for it. And then the others have somebody who has some other job on campus who's also taking on that role.
So now I understand why you mentioned collaborating with or checking in with your counterparts at PSU and OUS and OIT. That makes sense. You also mentioned in passing, Steve, STARS, which is an acronym, right, for the Sustainability Tracking and Assessment Rating System. Correct? Did I get that right?
Sustainability Tracking and Reporting System.
I beg your pardon, and reporting system. Okay. You know what? I think I just found a typo in a newsletter. Okay, thank you for correcting me. What does this program rate, and what are the rating criteria?
Well, it's very detailed and comprehensive. But about 3 or 4 years ago, a handful of essentially sustainability directors around the country started to get together to come up with a system to track their performance in ways that would allow them to compare institutions in an apples-to-apples kind of way. And it really is a response to some external evaluations that were being put out there by organizations such as the Sustainable Endowments Institute, the Princeton Review, the Sierra Club, that were those folks started rating, a handful of leading institutions. U of O is usually included amongst them, but we're often doing so in really incomplete ways, which were causing a lot of tension with the universities because we felt like our story was only being half told, and so we weren't getting credit necessarily for the things that we were doing, or we were getting, or the weights were placed in the wrong kinds of ways. So sustainability directors across the country got together and came up with this STARS program. And it is significantly more comprehensive than anything we've had before. There are several hundred universities that have now signed up to and committed to completing a STARS report. And we collect data now across operations, curriculum, administration, research, service, and foundation management. And I've probably skipped a couple, but there are some 440 points that are available total, spread across 150 some odd categories. So you get the sense that it's a pretty broad tool that we're using to measure our impact and to set some benchmarks so that we can see what kind of improvements we make against our own over time. Ours is coming out. We'll be submitting ours in just the next couple of weeks. Probably about 30 or 40 universities have already submitted ahead of us. And you get either somewhere between a base certification a base, silver, gold, or platinum.
I heard that Oregon State finished theirs and they were awarded a gold rating. What are you expecting for U of O?
We are expecting a silver rating, and let me qualify that a little bit if I may. So there's a lot of discussion behind the scenes as to how to report. There's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of room for interpretation within the credits, and so you can interpret things liberally or conservatively. And the more liberal that you interpret things, the more points you might accumulate in the short run, but the greater the likelihood that you are opening yourself up for greenwashing accusations. And there's no question in my mind that there will be lots of greenwashing accusations hurled left and right when this is all said and done at a range of universities, mostly those that have shot for gold. So we are purposely choosing to be conservative this first round, to protect our reputation, to give ourselves room to grow, and also because greenwashing is something that we have our own faculty experts on this campus work on that issue. We certainly don't want to make we want to learn from that. We don't want to make the same mistakes that others might be tempted to make. So we're going to start off with some fairly conservative interpretations of what the different points mean, and work from there.
Just to specify, I'm assuming that greenwashing means representing things in the most favorable possible light as opposed to what you called a more conservative assessment, perhaps painting yourself as further along in the process than you might actually
stretching
be.
The truth, is a way to look at it, or talking about a particular project you're doing that's a really neat project, but whose impact is really small, and not giving people a sense of the scales involved. There's a lot of ways that you can greenwash, but those would be some of the ways.
Here locally on campus, I know you're helping to work towards making the Herb Memorial Union a carbon neutral facility. Does the Students' Sustainability Fund and the students themselves get used or get involved to meet that goal?
Yeah, well, so there's three ways that there's three approaches that we use to neutralize the emissions from a building. Like the first thing you do is conserve. Reduce your energy loads as much as possible, and there's a lot of that ongoing in the EMU. And students use the Student Sustainability Fund to get money to go ahead and do to do those kinds of conservation projects. And then the second thing is to switch to renewable fuel sources that don't have the carbon footprint. So the example at the EMU is the solar panels that you see up there, right? It's a very small amount of its energy use, but it's a demonstration of that tactic. And then third is to offset the rest, to basically pay somebody to finance some kind of an emissions reduction project somewhere else that happens to be cheaper than what you could do on your own property. And so the Student Sustainability Fund is providing $8,000 last year, this year, more or less every year for the last several years, to buy carbon offsets from the Climate Trust. That's a nonprofit organization operating in Oregon, and then they inject that money, in this particular case, into a methane digester project on the Lockmead Farms up in Junction City. So Lockmead Farms operates a big dairy farm up there. There's a lot of methane produced from all of those cows, and methane's a pretty potent greenhouse gas. It's 21 times more potent than carbon dioxide itself. And so basically they're collecting all of that up. Instead of letting it decompose in the atmosphere, they're collecting it and getting some energy out of it and reducing the emissions that go up in the atmosphere as a result. So we are taking a credit approximately equal to the emissions that the EMU releases in exchange for $8,000 towards their project. So that's how we add it all up to create the one and only carbon neutral building that we have on this campus at this time, and it's the Student Union building.
Are there other possible carbon offset projects? You say that this all goes through Climate Trust, right? But it's identified Lockmead Dairy, so a very local industry. Are there other options for carbon offsets in the immediate community?
We previously were working with another offset provider and they had a project out there at the truck stop in Coburg on I-5. And essentially what they were doing were providing electric outlets for truckers so that instead of leaving their vehicles on all night idling to keep warm or to cook their meals or whatever, they could turn those off and instead plug in directly to an outlet whose emissions are significantly less. So that and there's a handful of other things they were doing to help essentially make long-haul truckers more gas efficient. So we paid some money to support the development of that project, and they are able to quantify the emissions reductions associated with it, and then we get, again, to take a credit. So we have a policy on this campus that when we buy credits, we go through a reputable offset provider who guarantees that they aren't selling those credits to multiple parties, that they're retiring them in certain ways, that they're verifying that there really is some kind of action happening on the ground equivalent to what it is that we thought we paid for. And then we have this other pretty strict requirement that the project be as local as possible. Local enough so that students and faculty could go travel to that project and see it firsthand. So we have one in Coburg, we have now another one in Junction City. I don't know where the future ones will be, but more and more of these are popping up all the time.
And I'm assuming that in general the ASUO is strongly behind these kinds of initiatives?
Well, it comes and goes. You know, this year we received, I think it was 12 proposals from students to the Student Sustainability Fund, which has roughly $35,000 a year to distribute to students to do their own types of projects. And the issue that always comes up is, should we be spending $8,000 of those $35,000 off campus? Should we be giving it to an organization that doesn't have any direct benefit to students, or should we be giving all that money to students to enact projects? And so it goes back and forth. It depends on the students who are involved in the ASU at the time. To date, we have always spent $8,000 on the offsets and then left whatever it is, some $27,000 for students. But that could change in the future. We don't know.
I understand with every new student government, it'll be a new set of negotiations.
Yeah.
Steve, we've run out of time. I'm so sorry, but I can't wait to see the results of the Eco-Challenge. I'm going to go home and save my bathwater to flush the toilet with tonight. So you've inspired me. Thanks for coming to talk to us.
Well, and thank you for having me.
We've been speaking with Steve Mital, Director of the Office of Sustainability at the University of Oregon. To celebrate Earth Week 2011, the Office of Sustainability has launched the UO Ecochallenge. It features a website where faculty, staff, and students can sign up to commit to simple actions that will reduce impacts on the environment. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.